Thanks everyone for coming today. I am going to talk a little bit about eating disorders in the coronavirus world. As we're all experiencing, these are sort of unprecedented times right now. And towards the end of February, we at the dorm started accepting the reality that life as we knew it was going to be changing, and we were likely going to need to transition into a more virtual treatment world, at least temporarily. And one population that we service at the dorm, we really worried about in particular in terms of just their vulnerabilities with needing to transition into a virtual treatment setting, and then also just their specific it's almost like a perfect storm when you take an eating disorder client and the coronavirus and social isolation, social distancing, stocking up on food. And we really wanted to try to look at A, where were their vulnerabilities, and B, how can we support them through these vulnerabilities. So some of the vulnerabilities that we identified right from the get-go were, of course, disruptions in their conventional treatment programming, social distancing, being stuck home alone or being stuck home with family members who are maybe triggering. Having a lack of structure and routine was another concern of ours. Panic around grocery shopping. Grocery shopping, even for somebody who does not struggle with an eating disorder right now, is not a fun experience. The trigger of stockpiling up on 2 weeks worth of food was another trigger that we identified. And then just the onslaught of social media messages around staying fit, gaining weight, was an area that we wanted to be mindful of and address head on coming into this sort of transition to a virtual treatment platform. We recognize that recovery from any mental illness is going to be harder during a crisis, but this particular crisis we have found is creating somewhat of a perfect storm for eating disorder clients. So the first sort of area that we wanted to look at was this 2 weeks supply of food that is being recommended by, the CDC, World Health Organizations. People want to and need to stock up on food so as to decrease the amount of time that they need to be spending in grocery stores. For an eating disorder client or for somebody who struggles with dysfunctional behaviors around food, food can be the thing that they turn to control, or the thing that they turn to self-medicate, self-soothe, to escape feelings of anxiety and fear and uncertainty, which are certainly rampant right now. So people that have, say, a binge eating disorder, who normally might not have excessive foods or certain foods in their apartments, are now being asked to stockpile food. So during a crisis, they are being given, in a sense, their most extreme exposure to face head on. In addition to the quantity of food, a lot of the foods that people are stockpiling on tend to be sort of those non-perishable fear foods. So that was something we also wanted to keep in mind going into this sort of virtual treatment world that we were entering in. The next thing that we wanted to take a look at was social distancing. And the message that we really wanted to give to our clients was, social distancing doesn't have to mean social isolation. What we know about eating disorders is that they tend to thrive in isolation, and that a key feature is to keep people out. We also know that community and connection are really integral and essential to the recovery process, because those tricky behaviors are more likely to persist and perpetuate when there's less people around to notice. Distance also, separates individuals struggling with disordered eating from their natural support networks. And for some of our clients, even worse than being sort of quarantined in their own apartment alone, they are sheltering in place with family members where there is conflict and or where possibly the family members are engaging in unhealthy behaviors around food or who are perpetuating unhealthy narratives around food. The last thing that sort of came to the forefront when we were thinking about what social distancing would mean for certain clients struggling with eating disorders is that a lot of their coping skills require being out and about, and things that they might have used in the past to help them when they were feeling an urge or being triggered, like going to a movie or hanging out with friends or um, going to certain in-person classes or doing hobbies, those things aren't readily available right now. So we wanted to be mindful of how we could help them and how we can currently help them to explore and hone and utilize different coping skills. Social media. Social media, even outside of a pandemic and a public health crisis, is fraught with different types of triggers for anybody, but certainly for clients and individuals who struggle with eating disorders. What we have been seeing on social media is just excessive commentary and posts and pressures around staying fit during this home and doing virtual workouts, push-up challenges, celebrities sharing workouts, different weight gain jokes and memes around the COVID-19. It seems like at-home workout posts are higher now than they've ever been, and that this diet culture is almost insidiously expanding during this time. So you take all this extra social media posts and narratives around diet and exercise, and you pair that with more downtime and less structured time, and the fear and the worry is that clients are going to fall into that trap of constantly scrolling Instagram and Facebook and falling into that compare and despair cycle where they compare how they're feeling on the inside to what other people are posting on the outside, and that is really negatively impacting just sense of self and the ability to sort of hone in on body positivity versus feeling ashamed and alone. Disruption of routine and structure. For some people, I think probably many of us on this call, we are busier than ever in some ways, but for most of the population, routine and structure has been completely dismantled, where people are out of work, who are going to treatment daily from 9 in the morning till 4 or 5 at night are no longer participating in that type of in-person structured routine. And loss of structure, as we all know, is particularly challenging for those who struggle with eating disorders. With less distractions and more free time, I think that they are really alone with some difficult feelings and with fewer coping skills at their disposal. So we wanted to really be mindful of a tendency or more free time with things like body checking and weighing oneself, and as I was saying, scrolling through unhealthy outlets like social media. Grocery shopping. Gosh, I've been to Trader Joe's, I've been to Fairway, I even went to Costco. Grocery shopping is not so fun right now. And for somebody who struggles with an eating disorder, even in the best of times, grocery shopping is already a triggering experience. So you sort of couple that with anxious people, long lines, empty shelves sometimes, and just an overall feeling of panic in grocery stores and doing grocery shopping right now is exceedingly overwhelming for somebody who struggles with an eating disorder. And we've certainly had to get creative around how to help our clients to grocery shop and get food during this time. So, given the landscape of what somebody who struggles with an eating disorder is faced with right now, as mental health treatment providers, we really had to look at how can we change treatment? How can we morph what we're doing in person to meet their needs virtually? And one of the first things that we determined is that there was going to need to be additional check-ins. So for our clients, what we're doing is, regardless of how many groups or individual sessions they are in during the day, in addition to that, they have a morning check-in with their skills therapist and an evening check-in with their skills therapist. So every morning starts with, how are you doing? What are your intentions for the day? Let's review your schedule. Where are areas of vulnerability? And then every night ends with sort of a review of the day and a look at how they were going to wind down and practice good sleep hygiene. We also wanted to increase opportunities for them to connect and socialize and have fun. You can't just sit in therapy groups all day long and stare at a screen. It's too much for any brain, any mind to handle. So we've been getting really creative around just fun activities to do virtually with our clients. We've had things like virtual scavenger hunts. We had a virtual talent show that was super fun. This weekend, we're doing a virtual pet show and tell. Typically, our clients can't bring their animals into treatment because of allergies and other issues, but now they can bring their pets into the treatment room. So we're going to have little contests and with their pets around, best costumes and most well-mannered, etc. But this is an area where I think that that clients are certainly appreciative, because being alone, not having access to friends and support networks can really increase anxiety and decrease mood and lead to depression. So having opportunities to laugh and have fun has been super helpful for them. The other thing that we wanted to do is increase self-care and wellness programming. So we always offer things like yoga, mindfulness, meditation, Zumba, Reiki. But what we wanted to do is be really strategic around A, providing more opportunities to participate in those activities, and B, place them in the schedule throughout the treatment day so that they had breaks in between therapy groups where they could participate in a health and wellness activity to help them unwind and sort of self-soothe and calm down. We've been doing virtually supported grocery shopping, whether that's in person or online using a Zoom shared screen so that our clients aren't alone during that process. We've also been doing meal delivery for many of our clients who are doing meal support groups on site at the dorm. Since they can no longer do that, we want to make sure that they are still getting their meals, and that process is done with their dietitian. So the dietitian is picking out meals and getting those meals delivered to them, and then they have those meals virtually, either individually or in their meal support groups. We are doing individual meals, as I said, and this is where Greta has been, super helpful for our clients that require way more one-on-one meal supports than just, one or two a week. the team at EDRS has been fantastic with sitting with clients and doing virtual meal supports. Our group meal schedule remains as is, so every single meal support group that a client was in prior to the coronavirus, they are still in now. It's just done virtually. And then we've added additional social meals to our schedule. We always had a handful every week, where it's less about focusing in on eating disorder clients, but more about just having social meals together. We do breakfast every day together as a community, and then we have social dinners a handful of times a week as well. So this is a sample schedule, and we have some people from Greta's team to the right of the schedule, so you can put some faces and names together. But for some of our clients who are really in more of a intensive treatment schedule at the dorm, they're pretty busy and structured from 8:30 in the morning when they have their first clinical check-in until 9 p.m. at night when they're sort of winding down and saying goodbye and checking out for the day. But we're doing things like group therapy, our Seeking Safety group, which is a trauma-based group, mindfulness, individual meal supports, yoga, body image group, food and mood group. All of these things are taking place on a day-to-day basis. In addition, we have our virtual clubhouse set up. When we were trying to contemplate what virtual treatment would look like, we started practicing with our clients about 2 weeks before we went fully virtual, so we could iron out some kinks, get them used to doing it, get ourselves used to doing it, and really get feedback from them. And we got every single group up onto a virtual platform. And in our first community meeting, when we were getting feedback from the clients, the one thing that came up was, well, what about our clubhouse? Because downstairs, there is a whole area of the dorm where clients just hang out and they play pool and they play ping pong and they do board games, and it's their space to hang out when they're not in groups, and they still wanted to be able to have that space in a virtual world. So from 9 in the morning till 6, 7 at night, we have a virtual clubhouse set up that they can pop into at any given time and hang out and socialize and talk and interact in a way that feels as similar as possible to the pre-coronavirus world. For the next part, I am going to turn this over to Carrie Wasterlane, who is going to talk about some specific tips that we have been giving to our clients during this time.
Thanks, Amanda. Hi, guys. Okay, so I'm going to kick it right off. So Amanda talked about how our routines have been all shaken up. So creating a routine with your clients is a really, really great first step to cope with everything that's going on. Obviously, we know they do better with structure. Everybody really does. And our normal structures have been taken away. So now is the time to be creative about creating new ones. And don't forget, obviously, to include meal times. So kind of if you're a dietitian, if you're a therapist, going through with your clients what that's going to look like from wake up to going to bedtime. And then finding activities that bring joy aside from just eating and the basic mundane daily tasks. Maybe there's a new skill they've wanted to develop. There's a lot of free classes online. Engaging in new activities to prevent depression and other kind of negative feelings that might bring upon eating disorder behaviors. So trying to bring as much as you can from your past former life into now, and also trying to create new things. Maybe there's an online equivalent of art classes, Broadway shows. I know a lot of museums and even gardens are doing online kind of slideshows. So things like that are really good to incorporate. And then getting really specific with their dietitians to plan out meals like I was talking about before, making sure that every day includes 3 meals and 2 to 3 snacks, spaced evenly. always having a good idea of when the next meal is going to be and what it will be and how they'll get it. Are they going to order food? Are they going to make food? Do they have the ingredients they need? All the kind of extra planning that now goes into creating a daily structure of meals. And of course, we know that eating every 3 to 4 hours is really important to maintain appropriate blood sugar levels, hunger fullness cues, to reduce binge eating, avoid restriction, and manage food supply. So planning meals that are satisfying physically and emotionally, meaning also listening to your body and what it needs. And if your client is at the point where they can be flexible, we really need to be flexible right now, as much as we can be. So talking through different options should, a cancellation happen from an ordering at a restaurant, or if you can't get to the grocery store. And then for mindful and intuitive eating, we think it's a really, really important time to remind your clients of this philosophy. Now is really the time to practice mindful and intuitive eating, since, as I said, we have to be super flexible. So helping your clients try to focus on their internal cues rather than everything that's going on around them. Like Amanda said, whether it's social media, maybe they're at home and they have a lot of those comments from family about what they're eating. We're trying to help them really tune into their own needs, and not everything that's going on around them. Making choices about what their body needs rather than a place from judgment or diet culture. And then just really trying to identify what rules they might have kind of going on in their heads and challenging those and helping them be flexible. So again, as Amanda was talking about, it's really hard to stay connected right now, and eating disorders thrive in isolation. So helping your clients reach out to their support systems in whichever way they can. That could be with peers. That could be even on social media with following positive social media influencers and positive body image influencers, and getting rid of all the other noise on social media. And then instead of texting, which is our clients' main form of communication these days, reaching out for videos, maybe having a meal or kind of a dinner party with family or friends. And then things that don't just have to do with food as well. So planning movies virtually, board games. There's a lot of new internet games that people are having a lot of fun with. So making sure those are accessible too, and just having your clients remind themselves that they're not alone and everyone's really struggling right now, and everybody needs to stay connected, whether they're dealing with an eating disorder or not. So it's, of course, a really important time for self-compassion and self-care right now. So in regards to food and how that relates to food, really helping clients do the next best thing. We can't go backwards if something happens and they're not happy with using a behavior. Just encouraging them to focus on the next best thing they can do, acceptance that we're in really hard times, and move forward. So encouraging positive self-talk and not perpetuating the cycle of shame around, oh, I used a behavior and now I'm just going to go totally off the rails, helping them get back on track. Having your clients build with you maybe a toolkit of healthy coping skills, writing some down, maybe a card that they can go to know what to practice, helping them incorporate meditation, relaxation, a good sleep schedule, and outdoor time are all some ways to make sure that they will be less vulnerable to using behaviors. Mindfulness skills also come in here. So a lot of DBT skills and mindfulness skills and CBT are really important to use. Using the 5 senses is a really good simple skill for your clients to have in their back pocket. So if you're really feeling disconnected in the moment, or really heightened emotions, or urges are really high, just focusing on, what do I hear? What do I smell? What can I touch and feel sensations, and potentially taste? So that could be like a tea, or it could be just opening their window and noticing what they hear outside, maybe lighting a candle, just kind of engaging with the senses. And then there's a skill called Halt the BS that a lot of people do find helpful, where it's trying to figure out when emotions are high, what's actually, and urges come up to eat, where it's really coming from. So before acting on an impulse or an urge, going through, am I hungry? Am I bored? Am I lonely, tired, angry, stressed, sad? That way you can target with your client what the actual issue is before they go to food to try to solve that problem. So kind of going back to self-compassion, it's really a time for radically accepting what's happening. And I know a lot of clients are just having trouble accepting that we're in the state they're in. It feels so unfair and so difficult. So helping them formulate positive self-talk. So rather than I cannot handle this is not going to work, I can't deal with it, it's I have support, I can get through this, and thinking of how they're going to do that. It's an opportunity to learn, to grow, to show myself that I have the tools I need to get through this. And then radical acceptance, the DBT skill, is really, really important. So having your clients understand it's okay and it makes sense that all these emotions are coming up. It's okay to feel overwhelmed, scared, afraid. We're all in this together. We found that a helpful thing for our clients to do, and we actually did this in a body image class, was write down just one positive coping thought, grounding thought, a compassionate thought, maybe on a Post-it and maybe on your mirror with like a dry erase marker, something that you see so that in difficult moments, I know a mirror can be helpful because body checking happens so much. In difficult moments, you have that there and you can remind yourself because the negative thoughts can take over so easily in isolation. And then helping them remember that it's one day at a time, one meal at a time. They really just have to focus on the next thing in front of them. They don't have to focus on what am I going to do in 3 weeks if the grocery stores close. It's really about today, what they can do. So if you do have a lapse or you do slip, that's okay too. We just have to get through the next couple hours. What's the best next thing you can do to prevent yourself from going down a spiral? There's no such thing as a perfect day, especially with COVID-19. So we're all navigating this together, and you have to see the gray in it. Help them not be black and white. So getting extra support, super important right now, and there's so many online resources into therapy. There's a lot of EBA meetings. I've seen numerous support groups on Instagram being advertised. So if they've been putting off getting help or they need more support, now is a really good time to look up some of those resources with your clients or give them some suggestions because there's so many people providing this right now. And that's all I have. And I just want to thank everybody for putting together the presentation and for coming today. And I'm going to pass it on to John to take the questions.